Okay. Ooh, gotta get like my nerves out of the way. Oh, all right. So we have Troy and myself, Samantha. Troy, if you want to say a little bit about yourself, and then I'll share a little bit about who I am and what I do. And then if you want to, after that, we'll lay out what we're going to discuss today.
Awesome. So my name is Troy. I go by Troi around the world, and I love that. I am a mother of two, a full spectrum, a wellness doula, which means that I highlight and prioritize one's health and wellness throughout their perinatal experience. So for all 4 trimesters, I educate, I advocate, I mentally affirm and prepare for that process. That's me, a liver, lover, performer. Tell me about you, Samantha.
Oh, Troy, I love that. As a mom of four, let me just tell you, like, if I'd had somebody in my corner like that, who could help me to move through those processes of bringing other souls into the world, right? In a way that feels good. What a difference that would have made. So I love what you do and how you're serving people. And so if you're watching this and you don't know who Troy is, if you have somebody who is planning on having kids or in the middle of having kids, or they've already had some kids and they want to have more kids, you want to be following Troy. So
Hmm.
who I am is, like I said, I'm a mama of four. We're located in Georgia, just south of Atlanta, slightly outside of the worst of the traffic, but still there. And what I do is I come in and I help leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners, people in the direct selling space, coaches, to be able to connect with themselves at a higher level internally so that they can live consciously and vibrantly in every area of their life. Because, Troy, tell me if like this resonates with you. If we're showing up in our personal life, in our business life, in any relationship at all, if we are bogged down mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, are we going to achieve any of the things we want to do in a way that actually matters?
A resounding no. We
No.
are going to work harder than we have to and achieve less than we can.
Yes, absolutely. So today what we're gonna do is Troy's gonna we're just kind of like this isn't really an interview per se. It's more of like a conversation style between friends where we're gonna talk about some things that have been on our minds and our hearts that we feel could also help impact you in your journey as well. So Troy, if you want to lay out some of the expectations of what they're gonna receive from us today, that would be amazing.
So, I am looking forward to sharing a little bit about my businesses and what it is that I do. And I think once I do that, you'll get to see how and why time management and scheduling and organization is so important, since that is the topic of today. But it's also important to know, like, what does it look like? What does she need to manage her time for? Like there is and has been such a in-home, a virtual space, a work from type of environment for the last 3 or 4 years since the pandemic. We're coming off of the tail end of that. But even so, there is a need to manage our time, to be in control of our energy, and to really understand the resource of time and to understand the outcome of using it wisely.
Yes, I love it. So Troy, if you want to, I want to hear a little bit about your vision. Like, what does vision mean to you? Why does it matter? How does it help you when we start getting into the conversation about time management and scheduling? Because if we don't know what we're striving for, if we don't have a strong enough, compelling reason to do things, then our time management doesn't matter because we're still going to be spinning the wheels.
Hmm. So it's important for me to note that my vision um, really looks like financial freedom, liberation, travel with my kids, education of alternative forms of education with human beings of on the global scale. I really love that. I envision for my life and myself just joy all around. I envision like the breaking of the fourth wall in every way that one can see it. So that's what I really work hard to do. I put in a lot of time towards automation, towards like what should be happening right now, so that within the next year or three, I can really have that freedom, that liberation, and the time to invest into my family.
That's beautiful. And I like you. You mentioned some keywords that I feel like anybody who's looking for that next level, maybe you're at the very beginning of your journey, or you're like mid-level, or you're at that higher level going, I know I need to stretch myself. There's got to be even more. And your spirit is calling to you for that next level. And when it comes down to it, the words that you use, there were three that I wrote down: liberation, freedom, and joy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those three words. If you're if you're watching this, like put in the comments which one stands out to you the most. Because liberation, if you think about it, what is liberty? Like, especially if you're in the United States, our country was founded on liberty and freedom. But if we also aren't living in a joyful way, then we don't understand what it is. We don't feel it, we don't experience it. And that's what we get the opportunity to learn how to do every single day. One of my personal mentors that I've been following for the past couple of years, Brendan Burchard, he talks about bring the joy every day. It's a conscious effort. It does not just happen.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wakes up joyful, at least not all the time. There could be periods, but think about the days where you're not joyful. Yeah, it's real, right?
Real. It's a decision that you get to make every day. Like, have you ever seen the meme where there's the cartoon guy and he's riding on a bus, a small bus in a mountain, and he's looking at the mountain and the rocks and the rubble, and it's like dark over here on this side, and he looks so sad. But then on the complete other side, it's the sun, there's butterflies, there's clouds. It's the beauty of being on a mountaintop. You get to overlook everything. And it's really all about perspective, right? So if
Yep.
you're willing to look in the direction that brings you the most joy, no matter the circumstance, no matter the experience, you will inevitably choose joy consistently. That is one of my favorite memes, and I just want to share one more meme. I am not a meme queen at all, but but I want to share one more meme. Have you ever seen the little dog sitting in the burning house or the burning coffee shop sipping its tea like everything's all right? Have you ever seen that meme?
I love that one.
I That's my meme. Like for the past 2 or 3 years, I was like, that's just me. Like, and everything's gonna be okay. I'm like only just coming out of that coffee shop, but I only made it out of that coffee shop by being positive throughout the circumstance and the situation. And now, there's safety on my side and not just in my mind, but actual physically.
Yeah, I love that. Something like, and if you start, I'm building my YouTube channel now and
Mhm.
really just kind of talking about the internal thoughts that sometimes we have, especially as we start growing our leadership levels, and our sphere of influence, where it becomes this thing that we can't talk about when we're sitting in the burning coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
You got
Mm-hmm.
to pretend like you're on the outside and you're just supposed to rescue people, but what about when you need rescuing too?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
That's a beautiful space to be in. Like mentally, I get chewed up a lot about friends. I mean, from our friends, because I like to look at myself as a realist. But sometimes realism can look and seem a little pessimistic. But just like I just told my client before I hopped on this call with you, it's important for us to not only overthink the positive ideas and the positive outcomes, but we also get to see what it looks and feels like on the other side of the spectrum to be prepared and or to avoid it. So, I mean, perspective is everything, mindset is everything, but it's also okay to see it all, but to make a choice to be positive and
Yep.
productive.
Yeah. And you're right. Sometimes and I definitely, I, we're both very creative, especially when it comes to like spiritual things, and we know we can make a difference in the world. Um, but there's also that, and we're moms. somebody's got to have realistic expectations raising these humans. When
Mhm.
it comes to business, there are so many things we can get distracted by. And so having that realistic expectations and outlook on things, but like you kind of alluded to, there's a balance between being realistic and being pessimistic, and I think sometimes um, it can be misinterpreted.
Mhm.
And so maybe we'll hang on to that one for another conversation because that's a
And it
whole, yeah, put a pin in it on that one. If you want to see us, and maybe bring in a couple of other leaders on this topic, let us know if that would actually interest you, because
mm,
that interests me. But we don't need to go on about it in another conversation if no one else wants to hear it. Um, so let's talk about scheduling a little bit, and I really want to frame scheduling as something that can be exciting,
mhm.
something that can bring joy
Mhm.
life, that allows us the capacity and the space to live our life by design versus by default. Because um, if you're anything like me, when I'm already busy and overwhelmed, if someone says the word schedule, I'm like, oh, here we go again. I've got enough stuff.
Mhm.
Can we just like not today? You know,
Mhm.
that's real for me. It becomes something that feels very overwhelming. And when we think about the word overwhelm, I want to hear kind of like I want to address that just like for maybe a minute.
Mhm.
Troy, do you want to talk about what does it really mean when somebody's overwhelmed? What are they actually saying?
I think when someone is overwhelmed, they're actually saying, I need a moment. I need a pause. Things are coming at me too quick, and I need to be able to process them. Um, and I can't in the way that this is happening. So I think that that's what that if I could give a bunch of words to the one word, overwhelm means like give me a minute to actually process everything that's going on because right now I cannot. That's it. Our orifices, our receptors aren't as bountiful as the information that is coming to us. So we need to slow down, line it up, back it up, close up shop. You can return tomorrow. Like there's just that word to me screams boundaries are in need. They need to be placed and set.
Yes, I love that. And that is a perfect segue into talking about scheduling. It doesn't mean adding more, it means removing. I've been starting to talk about this concept called make room for more.
Mm-hmm.
How can we take out the things that don't make sense, that don't align, that don't allow us to live how we want to eliminate some of those things, place boundaries. Imagine your calendar like a boundary. And here's the best way, because I couldn't understand boundaries for a long time. I grew up in an environment where boundaries don't exist at all. They just don't. And so if you read the book Boundaries, they talk about it being like a fence. Your mind and your physical being and your spiritual self is the house,
Mm-hmm.
and your boundaries are the fence. And you get to decide what comes inside the fence, what gets to live inside your property. If somebody comes in and they're being disrespectful in your yard, in your property, you get to tell them to step outside the fence. That's a
Mm-hmm.
boundary. And if you look at it like blocks of time in your calendar, if you're looking at it, like I have my Google Calendar and I have a physical high performance planner that has by the hour, by the week, and by the month. And I can see on it. When I'm actually using it, it's like a block. That is my boundary or my fence around my time and how I'm going to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's really important to keep in mind that we get to decide what lives inside of our calendar hour by hour, sometimes even with little kids, minute by minute.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like for you? What are your thoughts around that?
I love that. I'm not gonna lie. I want to say I struggle with it because the nature of my job is so last minute. Some things have to just be dealt with in the moment. But I love the idea of setting down at the top of the week on a Sunday and determining like what my larger goals are. What are my goals for this week in general? Period. And then throughout the rest of the week, I have something that looks like Monday through Saturday. What are you going to tackle in each day? And then it breaks it down hourly. All right, you're going to do this from this time frame and this from that time frame, and it includes self-care. I have to incorporate food. I have to incorporate time for the kids. I have to even include drive time, time to actually rest, and things like administrative things, social media things, emails. Like, how am I actually using this block of time so that it directly corresponds with my weekly goal? And I love operating like that. And even in the space where like sometimes some things kind of like creep in and it's like,
Hmm.
I was not scheduled to have a prenatal appointment right now. But what do I do when my client needs a placenta picked up? Like these things are last minute, but I can still respect and honor my time by saying like, all right, maybe I didn't get to this. I can put it somewhere else or somewhere on the block, or say, oh, I still have time, and or rearrange something to make it look like something that makes sense. At least this is my experience with it. I have a physical calendar. I also have my Google Calendar. And for more task oriented things for like larger groups, I like to use a platform called Asana that really allows me to schedule out things and tasks. Like, that helps me with my delegation. As a superwoman, as a mother, we feel like we have to do everything. That is not true. We have to ensure that everything gets done, which is different from having to do everything. So
Yeah.
when we understand that delegation, and not just as a mother, but like as a boss, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, we have to ensure that things get done. So it's okay to delegate sometimes, and it's okay to rearrange as things happen, because life does happen. But you always want to ensure that your larger goals are being met throughout for the entire week, whether it's throughout the day or just overall at the end of the week. Like, okay, boom, I hit those.
Yes. And so I'm gonna share an analogy in just a minute here, but first we also want I want people to not just be inspired by what we're talking about, but to actually take action and implement what we're teaching. So you mentioned a tool that you use to help with delegation, because getting everything done and doing it ourselves, like you said, are not the same thing. So what was that tool that you used?
The name of that app is called Asana, which is really interesting. As a wellness professional, I'm a yoga instructor, and our terms for yoga movement is asana, ASANA. It's essentially called pose. That's what it means. But if you see, when you go there, you'll see how it's time blocked, and you can actually have projects and who and how you can delegate them, and those people can have access to different parts of the project, and or like, it's a beautiful space. It's easy, it's clean, and it's simple. And I agree, implementation is key. There's a part of my life right now where like I feel like there is too much planning going on. Having been a part of the group, I'm like, there's too much planning. We need to implement what's going on. So implementation really is key. And where I've come from, I spent years planning, or being that little dog in the firehouse, like planning my escape, to finally coming out, or not even escape, but planning whatever. It's coming out into taking action and just learning through and implementing all of the adjustments. Like, oh, that didn't work. All right, let me do the next time, make sure it's there. To having people say like, all right, well, what time, or and when will you get it done? Like, they're three totally different parts
Yes.
of life, and it's okay for you to be in either of those three different parts of life. And actually, I'm interested, if you are watching this, where are you in your journey of productivity and implementation? Like, what does that look like? Share with us in the comments.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see where people are too. And sometimes one of the things that we really want to make sure we leave space for is that flexibility, because life is life.
Mhm.
There are days where my kids just aren't having it.
Mm-mm.
And so I have to clear my calendar in order to give them the priority that they need in order to show up as their best selves so that I can continue to show up as my best self. So we
Mhm.
do have to give room. And like I said, that fence, you get to decide what goes in and what goes out, not other people. And if somebody thinks you're wrong, well, their judgment doesn't matter because they don't live in your house. They're a guest. You're
Exactly.
in charge. And so very interesting to see where people are at and be real with yourself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
be honest. One of the things that shifted my life the most was when I learned to accept real, true, transparent, authentic honesty with myself. When I look in the mirror, what is real life? That doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
it's doomsday. Some days do suck, and
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is, and there's no positive spin on it right then. So I have to give space for that. But so there are times on my calendar where I do a black calendar for my intentions
Mm.
a day, and then a red calendar for what actually happened.
Mm.
It's a consistent thing, or if it was just like a blip here and there.
Mm-hmm.
You can also pinpoint if this is always happening, or it's happening 70% or more of the time, then I need to prioritize that or
Mm-hmm.
delegate that.
Mm. Mm.
Something has to change. So there's also that when we talk about implementation, how do we track it? And for me, that's a really good way of tracking it because what we intend to do, like you said, isn't always what happens. So we got to leave room for
Mm-hmm.
reality.
Mm-hmm.
So set the boundary in place because otherwise a year or two is going to go by and you're going to go, what even happened? Nothing got done.
Yeah.
What have I
Yeah.
been? And somebody says, well, let's look at your calendar. I don't have one.
Right.
Or I do have a calendar, but I don't actually track it.
Mm-hmm.
That was hard for me as a mom. Maybe part of it, there's a resistance level. I didn't want to have to face what I wasn't doing well. So I needed a level up
Yeah.
life. I needed to have more accountability with myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had a high performance coach who taught me how to do my calendar better. And I was like starting to make up these excuses about all the hard things in my life. And he's like, whoa, let's slow down,
Mm-hmm.
put our hands on our heart, let's breathe
Mm-hmm.
and just feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can face it. I was like, feel it and face it. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it started giving me those skills. And you talked about something that I had never done before. He laid it out for me was that Sunday overviews
Mm-hmm.
or a Sunday reset
Mm-hmm.
into the week. Here's all the needle moving things that absolutely have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So the concept that I want to talk about really quickly here is well not really it's like a concept and an analogy. You've probably seen it. There's videos going around about it over the last few years, but it's like if you have a vase,
Mm-hmm.
fill it up with water, and then you try to put stuff in, what's going to happen?
It'll be filled with water and the water will spill out.
Yeah, it's going to overflow.
Yeah.
And like all it was water. You're
Yeah.
going, where's everything else?
Right.
So what we do is we put in the big rocks first. The things that make the most impact, that take up the most space that we cannot avoid, or that we should not avoid,
Mm-hmm.
that we should be taking care of on a regular, consistent basis, like eating healthy, drinking water, getting movement. If you don't have time to move, your body will force you to make time to move at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And space to spend time with our kids or our significant others. These are the big rocks. Um, a miracle worker that I was talking to last night said that she actually has the big rocks up on the wall above her so she can see those priorities every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because your priorities are in place, you can now start putting sand and gravel and all the little things into the vase. And they just kind of flow in nice and eloquently and make this beautiful vase on the bottom. Then you can put the flowers and then you can water and nourish it. But if we start with the things that don't really matter, we just try to pour it in, we're just gonna drown everything, and we're left with a mess.
Mm, mm. I love that. That makes me think of birth worker here. It makes me think of that first year breastfeeding and why you
Yeah.
don't give kids water. I don't give your kids water because you are drowning out the nutrients. You are taking up space in the belly with absolutely nothing. So your breast milk or the formula, whatever your choice and preference of feeding, is all that your baby needs for that very first year. I love though that when you mentioned big rocks, the big rocks were things like eating healthy and time with your family and taking care of yourself. I would have been like, the big rocks are, like I would have just thought it would immediately went to something else. But you're right. Those are things that need to happen every day. And those are things that is the driving force for why I do what it is that I do. So why wouldn't I prioritize it and then have everything else work around it?
Yeah, and that question right there. Why wouldn't I put these things first?
What?
Why don't we do that? And I can tell you from experience, as a business owner, as somebody who's been in this space my whole entire adult life, from like 18 to, I'm turning 32 next month. And you'd think I would have this down by now. But last week, I let my life circumstances and things outside of my control get me to the point where I was irritated with my kids. I was
Mhm,
looking at my calendar and going, I don't know what to do. So I'm just going through the motions, well, it's on here. I've got to get these things done. But I forgot about my big rocks for a minute.
mhm,
And I tried to put in the things that everybody else was telling me to do. You got to
mhm,
make videos. You got to
mhm,
finish the book. You need to reach out to people. You need to make phone calls. Hey, you're paying a babysitter so that you can make money. And then
mhm,
I internalized that and said, that means that I can't take time for me because all my money's going to the babysitter for working hours. And it overflowed,
yeah.
completely overflowed. Yesterday, I had to give myself the space to go sit at the lake for an hour and a half. I
Mm,
sat there until I was ready to leave, till I felt like I could emotionally face the world. Because paying a babysitter, whether it's on a Friday night or in the middle of a workday, I cannot create and show up in my business and serve people when I have overflowed in every other area in a negative way.
I
Because
agree.
there's flour overflow and there's water and mess overflow. And I
Mhm,
was in water and mess overflow.
mm,
And my
mm.
flowers were just like wilting, going, what's happening? Are we gonna fall out and die too?
Overwatering, waterlogged.
Yeah, so we have to do that too. That's why those rocks are so important. Uh,
Mhm,
and taking time for that. And something, Troy, that you had mentioned that I feel like ties into this and the importance of why first we need to know what we're doing it for, that
mhm,
vision, what we're striving for, and how we want to feel through this process
mhm,
to constantly come back to center. When we become so innately and consciously aware of our emotional state of being,
mhm.
it almost becomes this annoying thing because you know when you're not doing it and you
Yeah.
can catch it.
Mhm,
And then you can start finding your way back to the source of what's going on.
mhm.
And so that's why vision is important. Scheduling so that we can actually live life by design with the ebbs and the flows. There was a day last year, like, where I had to take my kids. I didn't have to, I chose to. I chose to take them in mid school. My 4-year-old was crying about everything, refusing to get dressed. My 6-year-old wouldn't get ready for school. My 8-year-old had decided that school doesn't matter because we're already late. And my 11-year-old, who just turned 12, is like, but I have tests and everything. And he's getting mad because he wants to get to school. And I was like, you know what? Just get in the car. I don't care if you're wearing shoes. I don't care if you're in school clothes. Just get in the car. And they're confused, but they're on board with it. We're getting in the car. Okay. We had to physically leave. I had to take my calendar and go, absolutely everything. There's nothing that's going to kill me. Move it to tomorrow. And I took them to a state park and we
Mhm,
golfed and we walked around the waterfall. And my kids were like, this is the best day ever. And some people like, they had school.
mhm,
They're not going to take it with them. I don't care about how many days I miss.
mhm.
I
Mhm.
cared about whether or not I was emotionally and mentally supported through those years. So
Yeah.
we get to choose that when we need to, we can clear it away. That can't happen all the time, obviously. I'd love to do that, but that's not reality either. But we do got to leave room to be able to take care of ourselves. I think that's the whole point. And then the other thing that you mentioned before we got on was doing all of these pieces and figuring them out. And sometimes it's going to change. Sometimes that method doesn't work for you. And that's why there are so many options. You
Mhm.
have to figure out what works for you. And if you need help, you can put in the comments and someone will support you. You can
Yeah.
message me, you can message Troy. We have a whole community of leaders with different skill sets to
Mhm.
help people learn these things. And we can refer you to somebody if we're not it.
Mm.
But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, what is it about all these things that allow you to feel unstoppable, free, liberated, and proud of who you are and how you're showing up in the world?
Mm. You know what? I said my goal was liberation, right? But I really feel that I am in a beautiful space to, just like you, be able to say, like, this is not working right now. Let's do something. Let's shake it up. Let's ground. Let's have some fun to like really rearrange things and to move things and then also to still get things done, right? So I feel unstoppable in this moment because I do have the malleability. I am flexible in my life as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a lover and liver of life. Like it just is what it is. I feel really great and proud of myself in this moment for the effort that I'm putting in, for the growth that I'm seeing, for the self-exploration. That's what I love to call it. It's a journey of self. Like I get to see what works for me, what feels good for me, what doesn't feel good for me when things are changing, so that I can take note of why that's no longer working for me, or like, oh, you know what, like let me get on top of that because that isn't working for me no longer and I need to try something else or another option. Just being attuned with myself. So I heard throughout everything you said, I heard attunement and I heard exploration of self and I heard understanding what's going on with our big rocks and the importance of that. So I feel unstoppable as a mom because I am filling up my toolbox and my toolkit with tools that actually work in the moments that they work, and not trying to use a feather when I need a hammer, and not trying to use a hammer when I need a screwdriver, and not filling up the pail with sand versus filling it up with water. Just like understanding what works when, and understanding and having offering myself grace to know that what worked for me yesterday or last week or last hour is not always necessarily going to be the thing. And I have the tools to do so. So I'm really big and I feel really proud and unstoppable of my self exploration, even though I'm not at the peak of liberation. I'm not totally inhibited in myself. I am not bound by anything or by anyone. So I feel pretty good about that, you know?
I love that. And you're in such a healthy place in your life. So if you're watching this and you're like, oh, I want that, but I'm just not there. Things are so heavy. They're too much.
Ooh, I got a challenge for you. And so does Samantha. I'm sure my challenge is going to end both of our challenges, right? Samantha, tell me a little, both of our talent challenges add tools to our toolkit of self care so that we are able to better navigate life and as it comes and use the right tools, the proper tools in the proper way, no matter what it looks like.
Yes, and that is something like if you're struggling and you want to have a resource, I'm sure that Troy has some she could send your way. I have one that I created called the roadmap destination. And what it is you're trying to get from where you are in your life, in this example, in a visual way. You're at your house and you want to get to the beach, that ultimate blissful place where you can just sit and be and exist. in a vibrant whole way at the ocean. At least for me, that's the ocean. That's how I see it. And you just want to get there, but you don't know how to get there. You need a roadmap for
Mhm.
your mindset, for your internal world, for your nutrition. And so I call it the M&M framework, the mindset, nutrition, and movement. I created a PDF on it. I don't charge anything for it. It's a freebie. You love those. Just
Yeah.
drop roadmap in the comments and I'll send it your way. And if you want to connect with Troi, let me know, let her know. And we'll also make sure that the link to where you can connect with her and become a part of her community will also have available for you so that you can find the support and the connection and the community that you need. There are
Mm,
really three C's that we
mhm,
all need, right? We need an elevated level of confidence.
mhm,
We want communication
mhm,
and we want community.
mm,
And you can find those here, but you have to be willing to raise your hand and say, I need that. I want that. I'm ready for that.
mhm, mhm.
And we
That's
want to be that for you, however we can be. If it just means that we're a medium in the middle to getting you connected with the person that you need, I'm okay with that too. And I know Troy is. That's why we have community, why
yes.
we're connected with so many incredible human beings so that we can get people guided where they need to be, even if it's not through us knowing that we reached somebody closer to their destination. That's goals.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So
I
is there anything, Troy, that you want to leave our amazing community of viewers with?
I just really want to encourage you guys to tap into um yourself and to understand what's going on within you and to offer yourself grace and compassion and love and respect that you need and deserve. And I want to welcome you to that through and by way of a challenge. It is called Soul Journey Self Care Challenge. It is what I love to speak on and love to share about because the importance of wellness and self care is just should be more prominent throughout our lives. It is directly indicative of the growth mindset that we have and what goes on around our environment. So, come learn a little bit more about yourself with me and my community, our sunshine. We heal there, we love there, and we are also a beautiful place to connect to other resources and to grow as an individual, as a business person, as just a family member in general. So that is what I'd love to share. My name is Troy Loren. Thank you so much, Samantha, for having me. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Yes, and thank you. Like seriously, that challenge is going to be amazing. It's just going to be so phenomenal for you to go back to center.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one thing that I learned really quickly that I want to leave everybody with, ourselves included, is I want you to quickly check in with yourself. How are you feeling? Take a deep breath in, hold it for a minute, just release it when you're ready. Doesn't that feel so good?
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
you're feeling energetically called to either one of our communities or to Troy's 5 day challenge, just take action. Just do it. You'll find out on the other side if it's right or not. But every time I've done that and gotten the courage to move forward with something somewhere, even if it wasn't exactly right, it got me closer to what was.
Mm-hmm.
So connect with us. We'll get you connected where you need to be. Drop it in the comments. Let us know how you're feeling right now. And follow us for more amazing things and also more collaborations.
Yeah, come reset, recenter, and recharge with us.
Yes.
Until next time.